Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Amber Valley series. There are 35 parishes in this beautiful slice of eastern Derbyshire. Here's one for your viewing pleasure. Welcome back to Amber Valley, everybody. Now this is a fun one. This has got two main settlements within it, but it's only named after one of them, and we're beginning in that one. You can see behind me there's a farm. Now that is called Inn Farm, because I reckon that used to be a pub at some point. It certainly has all the sort of hallmarks of a pub building, doesn't it? So that'll be interesting to find out about. That you can find in the parish of Weston Underwood. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Today in Amber Valley we're heading to Weston Underwood, an agricultural area that comprises the village of the same name, plus Muggington and Muggington Lane End. It's just over 5 miles away from Derby. The main village is one of those rare places which was listed in the Domesday Book under the same name we have today. Both Weston Underwood and Muggington have very scant information about them, so as a result a lot of this one was a challenge to write. I was able to pin down a few things though. First of all, both Weston Underwood and Muggington were both heavily reliant on farming historically, and to an extent they still are. Businesses here include a dairy farm located at an old inn which has been milking cows since 1958. Further afield there's also FP McCann, who make precast concrete floors. Muggington is the place that has the most amenities, including a school, a pub and the only church in the parish, All Saints. It's also where the village hall is located. There's a bit of wartime history here too. In 1944 a Whitley bomber crashed in a field close to Muggington and a memorial was built directly over the crash site. One thing you can't deny is how good the views are out here of the surrounding Derbyshire countryside. Weston Underwood sits on a gentle hillside offering some, but the real place to be for them is in Muggington's churchyard. So what are we waiting for? Let's go and see them. Our route around the main village begins at the junction of Bulhurst Lane and Cutler Lane, and first up is Inn Farm Dairy. As I suspected, Inn Farm was at one time a pub. In fact, it was a coaching inn called the Scarsdale Arms. It ceased trading in the 1930s, and in 1958 a man named Robert Hutchinson began milking cows here. It all developed from there. In 1975, Inn Farm had the only rotary milking parlour in the entire country, but it wasn't a success. Cows are now milked using a traditional herringbone parlour. It sells milk via a vending machine and also sells eggs and ice cream as well. It's well worth checking out, folks. Their website is below. Over the way there's a parish notice board. Tick off Weston Underwood, folks, it's in the books. Weston Underwood is also served by a bus, which you can catch right here too. It's the number 114 which runs between Ashbourne and Derby, although there is a school service too, the 335 between Brailsford and Ecclesbourne School in Duffield. So Weston Underwood is basically one straight long street, but I can turn this into a circle because there's a footpath that runs around the back of this street, which means I can make it into a loop, which is good. Now the other place in Weston Underwood Parish is called Muggington, and that is where a lot of this place's amenities are, including Muggington C of E Primary School, which we will be seeing in a bit. Weston Underwood is located on a gentle slope, and now we're walking to the top of that slope via Bulhurst Lane. At no point do you feel like you're walking uphill, but you are. Weston Underwood has an eclectic mix of housing. A lot of it is modern, surprisingly. The oldest properties are all clustered around the crossroads near the dairy. With not a lot more than just residences, I opted to head for the footpath which I was talking about earlier, which is well hidden between two houses on the right-hand side. Now this was the hardest part of the walk. In a way, I regretted using this footpath for several reasons, but having said that, it was good to see a part of the village that I'd imagine not many do. It runs to Burland Green Lane, which is the road directly opposite Cutler Lane and In-Farm Dairy. Whilst the path was cut back in places, there were sections which were very overgrown, and the lack of waymarkers didn't help at times. In certain spots though, you do get some good views. Got to tell you, this footpath, although it's helpful, it's not the best one I've ever walked on. I've already been stung by a few nettles, and there's a few more down here. As you can see, it's very overgrown at the moment, but it does bring us out onto the street which comes out opposite the inn farm, so it is a helpful path. We'll be back there in a few moments, and then we can go to Muggington. And it takes us over a rickety bridge as well. Blimey. I'd imagine not many people come down here. Look at this, it's wobbling, look at this. Hopefully it's sturdy enough to carry my weight to the other side. I know I'm quite heavy, but maybe cut down on the pies, I think. On the road out of Weston Underwood, you'll find a massive industrial site belonging to FP McCann, one of the UK's leading manufacturers of high-quality precast concrete floors. To get to Muggington, we're going via Muggington Lane End. Look to your left and you'll see a pub called the Cock Inn. Once a traditional watering hole, for years it stood empty, but in 2016 it was given a much-needed makeover. As well as a pub, it's also now a restaurant. After navigating the sharp bend it stands on, we're now coming downhill again and entering Muggington itself. In 1944, a plane crashed not far from here. It was a Whitley bomber BD-230, and a memorial was built directly over its crash site. Although smaller than Weston Underwood, Muggington is where all the main amenities are located out here, including a church, a school, and a village hall. Muggington's name, by the way, derives from Old English, and it means farmstead of a man named Mogger. It's often misspelt, even in official records, as Muggington. This short walk begins at the village hall, which is run by a charity called the Muggington Village Hall Company. Aside from the church, it's the only communal building here. Here's the school. Muggington C of E has been serving the local community's children for 175 years. In the last 5, the number of pupils attending here has more than doubled. Outside, I found this attractive little garden, which the children here seem to have spent a lot of time on. From an industrial standpoint, Muggington is like Weston Underwood in that it's mostly relied on farming. It too once had a dairy of its own. It was this building here opposite the school. There's a number of farm buildings around, in fact. Behind the school is Old Rectory Farm. The rectory itself is a 3-storey brick building. Grade 2 listed, it dates back to the late 18th century. As you head south towards the church, the road starts to dip sharply, and you're treated to this vista. I just had to stop for a moment and take this in. You can't deny it, folks. Amber Valley is a very pretty part of the country. Just look at this view here. Isn't it fantastic? It's Derbyshire at its finest. I think I've said that before in a different episode, but it's true. It's true. Views like this, it's what makes all the walking around, all the effort worth it. Okay, I'm looking at this view from the churchyard. Here is the church, which is behind me, and this will be the last thing that we talk about in the parish of Weston Underwood. All Saints Church has been a Christian place of worship for more than 900 years. A church was recorded on this site in the Domesday Book, but there's some strong evidence that there was an earlier Saxon building. It retains a certain medieval character despite never really undergoing any excessive restoration. That's according to a board on the wall of the porch, which you can see here. It tells you a few things about the church. It also states it's got 4 bells, the oldest of which goes back to 1512. The last time it was majorly restored was in 2002, when a new lead roof was added and repairs were made to the tower and 3 of its medieval windows. The churchyard is a modest size, although this grave certainly isn't. This is that of John Parker and his wife Elizabeth, easily one of the biggest headstones around this church. And the churchyard is perhaps one of the most spectacular you can visit locally, if only for this magnificent view across the valleys below. And using a continuation of Church Lane, that's it for Muggington and for Weston Underwood as a whole. Time to move on to the next one, where we'll be talking a great deal about a cricketer whose name is splashed all over the village that we're heading to. I wonder who that could be. You'll find out next week. Laters. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.